We're live, baby.
All right.
It's a Thanksgiving Day miracle.
What would you guys do without me?
Steven's
Figure
a
it out,
miracle.
but just obviously a little slower.
Steven's a Thanksgiving
With no
Day miracle.
snide commentary.
Yeah. You really set me up for that one.
It'd be a lot less face palms, a lot less table punches.
You
For
can
the
use
love
the remote right
of
there,
God.
Jordan. Yeah. Okay.
That
Welcome
was fun.
to
Yeah. So for those who don't know, we just did a whole. We did the podcast for 10 minutes before realizing it wasn't actually live. So
Yeah.
now we're gonna pretend that we didn't just say all that stuff.
rehearsal. It's like a real show. Welcome everyone to the Alfalfa podcast presented by Zbiotics. We are Eric Johansson, Steven Cesaro, Armand Asadi. I'm Nick Urbani. Armand Asadi is not here this week. Papa's gone. Steven's sitting in his chair. And you think you can fill those britches over there? Or you definitely can't fill that junk in the trunk.
Should I use the same giant ass joke I used before?
You gotta keep making the same jokes.
Insert
dude.
giant ass joke. Yeah. No, the seat is very deep.
Yeah.
It's very deep.
Well, Armand's watching. He's here in
Been
spirit.
a wide load sitting in
What
here.
was that
for some
bottle of
time.
wine he was drinking last night? That looked like
Oh, Opus One.
Opus One, but it was a
Oh, it
particular.
was like a 99, I think.
Yeah, fancy.
Rich.
Yeah, very rich.
Jeez.
Jeez.
Living
Leaving
a
us
good
here
life.
to. All right. We'll allow it. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for bearing with us, as always, every week. We got Calcium, Tom Nom Nom, Matt, Jen Sinius, Dan. We got a whole crew in here. Thank you for joining us live. And
Don't
if
forget
you're listening on the
Tunsky.
podcast, Tunsky's in there.
I see you, Tunsky.
Yep. If you're joining us on the podcast, feel free to join the fun Wednesdays at 5 p.m. PST, and we'd love to have you here. All right. Eric, what are you drinking there? Looks like a little tequila.
Yeah, much like our content today. It's just a little all over the place. I'm on the tequila. You're on the whiskey.
I'm on the King's whiskey from Bhutan, and you're going to try to fight a cold.
Steven's not drinking
the-
today,
with the
but he
whiskey.
does have a glass of whiskey in his hand.
Is that a prop, or are you going to actually drink it today?
Yeah. No, I'm drinking it.
Okay.
What's that saying? Like, feed a cold, starve a fever, get everything else drunk?
I think that's when everyone's life expectancy was about 42.
Yeah.
So probably shouldn't follow those guidelines.
All right.
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right, well, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Zbiotics. The URL is zbiotics.com/alfalfa. Check out the URL, get a discount off your first order. I think it's a perfect holiday gift
Perfect
to give
holiday
around.
gift.
Give around to everyone, friends, family, those who choose to imbibe. I think it's a good gift amount. Like right in that zone, you can give them the 3-pack or the up to the 12-pack if you're feeling.
Yeah, just depending
generous.
on how important that person is, you can go from
In
3
your
to
life.
12. I don't know if there's like a one bottle thing just for a little. That'd be a great stocking stuffer.
I think
Just
it's a good white elephant gift, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great one.
Yeah. So for those listening for the first time, Zbiotics is a probiotic you take before you drink, and it kills that nasty little toxin, acetaldehyde, that makes you feel like crap in the morning. Most people think it's the dehydration, so you take all those electrolytes and drink water and all your other cures and remedies, but it's that toxin that makes you feel bad. So Zbiotics takes care of that for you. So check out zbiotics.com/alfalfa for the discount code, and feel free to share it around at Thanksgiving, around the holidays. We're going to, keep mentioning it every episode. And I think we have a giveaway coming up, but before we do, you want to mention the NFTs, collectibles we got going on?
Yeah. Yeah. So as you guys know, we've been doing the NFTs through pods.media. You can basically collect an NFT of every episode now. We went live with our launch collection, which will be available through the end of the year. And we're going to release an NFT for every episode moving forward. I think they're going to be live for 7 days. So there's going to be a little scarcity to them. So some of you guys can hoard a bunch of them, and when the newcomers come down the road, they don't have every episode. You can maybe sell them for a little markup. I don't know. Not financial advice.
You got to collect them all. You got to collect them all.
And we're going to be dropping the price on the regular episodes now because we did the launch collection and realized it was going to start adding up for you guys who want to collect every episode. So we're probably going to cut them to around like $5 or so, which is about a third of what we launched with.
Cool.
So looking forward to that.
We got any people on the leaderboard that we should mention?
So shout out to the collectors of last week's NFT. First place, Adam Snyder, Thank you, Adam.
Adam
Big fan,
Snyder.
big fan.
AdamSnyder.eth. And then we've got SimmonsD.eth.
Dan Simmons,
Who could it be?
the legend.
It's got to be Dan, right? And then, of course, 0x Lucas rounding out the third spot.
He comes in hot.
Yes. So thank you to our
Nicely
top
done.
collectors last week.
And maybe we should weave in the Z-Box giveaway with this. I think it'd be fun. First off, shout out to Christopher with a K. He won last week's Z-Box giveaway. His Z-Box is in the mail.
Congrats, bud.
On
You got
the way
himself a
to
12
him.
pack.
Yeah, a nice little 12-pack. He said I'm already on the Z-Botics train, but happy to have more and share with friends and family. So for this one, why don't we do any collector of the collectibles, if you have one already, or if you would like to, if you purchase a collectible, any of the collectors will be eligible for next week's giveaway. Again, it's a 12-pack of Z-Botics for free. And what we'll do is we'll announce the random winner on the air, and then we'll give you a little email to shout out to us to collect your shipping address, and we'll send it off. Let's see. Anything else?
I think that's all the housekeeping. I mean, I wouldn't remember if we had anything. So,
All right. I'm staring at my list. I think that's it.
yeah, if you don't remember, I definitely don't.
Okay. Can I tell you guys a funny story from last week's episode?
Yeah,
So
please do.
I picked up my mom from the airport today,
Yeah.
and I guess she was watching the podcast and she was playing it out loud, like maybe on the TV or a phone. And I made a joke about a little prank to play, saying, "Alexa, please order Astroglide at your friend's house," to joke order. So she's saying she was listening to the episode, and all of a sudden,
Wait.
I say, "Alexa, please order Astroglide." It's playing out loud in the house, and Alexa fucking orders it.
No way. To what? To your mom's house?
Yeah. She's like, I had to stop the order to go and log into my account, stop the order. Oh man, we were dying laughing when she told me.
Damn, you did it yourself. That's
I know.
so good.
I know.
Oh man, you're a funny guy. You got any other pranks up your sleeve? there?
No, not anymore. Shit. Kicking off Thanksgiving, right? All right, guys. What are we going to talk about today? How are you guys doing this week? We didn't really come up with a full agenda, but we got plenty of things I'm sure we could talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we have no agenda at all, I think is what you're saying, but
Yeah.
that's cool.
A lot going on in the world.
A lot going on in the world. What are you guys feeling? You want to
I
talk?
mean-
you want to talk the finance stuff? You want to talk about Big Elon? We got some stuff going down in Argentina.
Yes. I do want to talk about Javier in Argentina.
Let's talk. I know. Let's just talk about the money. I know you guys want to talk.
Yeah, I do.
About
Okay.
So I mean, are you? I was texting you guys. I was like, I'm not fully rested from last bull market, but there's already things I want to kind of like farm and play with in crypto. There seem like there's some potential airdrops coming, some nice little yields already starting. It's nice to see that we just picked up where we left off.
Does it feel too early for
It feels-
you
it
to be
feels
like
early.
degenning again?
It does, but there's like nice little juicy yields, some maybe
So the
free
big
money to
the
collect.
big farm right now is Blast.
yeah,
Heard about Blast?
Yeah,
You blasting?
Give us a little intro to Blast, maybe connect it to Blur for people who are crypto.
Yeah, so Blast
Novice?
is a new layer 2, which at the moment I think is just a multi-sig smart contract. It's not
Doesn't
really
exist
deployed. I don't think it exists yet. But it will be allegedly a new layer 2 on top of Ethereum. I think the TLDR of it is that ETH and stablecoins on Blast are just going to give you native yield. I think the L2 just automatically invests Ethereum on it and stablecoins in Lido and DAI, which is a little degenerate.
Right.
You're basically we're just doing a thing from last cycle where we're just gonna stack a bunch of smart contract.
So is this like a
risk on
coat
top of
ticket
each other.
situation? Like I walk in the door, I hand them my coat, they give me a ticket, and in my wallet it says I have ETH, but in reality, I hold a ticket which is the coat's like in ST ETH, and it's actually getting yield.
Well, it's like if you could call up like the Arbitrum contract, and you basically see like all of the ETH, right? But it's just sitting in ETH, so they're just going to take that, but then put it all in Lido, I guess, and then give you the yield.
I mean, technical risk aside, I'm a fan.
It's kind of noob friendly, I guess. You just hold assets and you you make yield.
Yeah, so probably like 3 to 4% on your ETH, probably like 4 to 5% on your stable coins.
I'm gonna play the airdrop. I don't really care about the layer 2 that much.
Yeah, you want to
like,
get into that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people throwing out numbers that you might basically get like 30% or so of the ETH you put in. I saw on Twitter today somebody degened in 10,000 ETH.
I saw it. We were in a meeting. And my business partner just like mutes the thing and whispers, "Someone just dropped 10,000 ETH on the L2." And I was like, "What?"
Damn, Rodino just that
Yeah,
dialed
I
in
just want to
during
know
your meeting.
who that person is. Like,
I mean, to throw
who is
around,
that?
what was that, 20 million bucks?
20 million, yeah.
Yeah, throw on 20 million bucks. So here's the catch. This L2 doesn't exist yet. So you got to deposit it now to get the max rewards, but you won't be able to withdraw until the layer 2 is live. Devs are estimating February. Who knows when it could actually be? I mean, February is kind of arbitrary if you ask me. But yeah, you won't be able to pull the money back out. And I think at this point, if you're a multi-cycler, you have to be suspicious and some discount rate that you may not be able to pull this money out at all.
And it could get worse. So as always, best practices: send ETH to a brand new wallet address that's empty, and then use that to deposit.
Good.
Yeah, that's what I did. You gotta hook up your Twitter account too. So I'm like,
Sounds fun.
I'm not doxing my wallet. So yeah, you gotta mix it through an exchange and set up a new wallet and do it. But yeah, if anybody's not completely, complete PTSD from last bull run there, and you still have a desire to farm stuff. I think it's, what is it, blast.io?
Yeah.
I think is the website.
If you hop in the Discord, there's a lot of guys who are playing around with it in the money channel. I first texted you guys and I was like, wait, what am I doing? I went to the Discord. I was like, they're already on it.
And also guys
Lovely.
giving good like counter arguments.
Yeah.
I
think you should mention there's probably a little pedigree to this project because
Yeah, that's a good point.
The founders are from Blur, which is the NFT marketplace that
Pac-Man, right?
that swooped market share from OpenSea. So I think when we kind of go up at some point, Blur might have more market share than OpenSea. We'll see.
Yeah.
So there's a little pedigree. This project that has performed at a large scale. People have been rewarded millions of dollars in airdrops. So we'll see.
This is a preview of the complete shit show that's going to happen this cycle, where everybody and their mother just starts spinning up an L2. Like, we talked about how this would definitely happen a long time ago, but now it's happening.
I mean, the financial incentives are there. Like, if you have an application, why wouldn't you just launch it on your quote unquote L2 and use Optimism's open source code, use whatever, so that you can launch an airdrop, a token. I think if you're being generous, you call these things game mechanics. I think if you're being pessimistic, you call them just Ponzi-nomics.
Yep.
And but they're coming back and they're already here, which is a little weird. It still feels like too soon.
Nah, it's just right. This would be a very crypto thing for, like, we just kick off the bull run and then there's a bug in the contract and we just lock up like $1 billion of ETH and it's like not recoverable or something. There's 300 mil, I think, in there already.
Well, one guy put in 20 million of it today.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It sounds like a high number for like 3 days since launch or whatever.
How wild is crypto though? Like, why does this happen? Like, the fact that you can just deploy a smart contract and be like, yeah, we'll give you an airdrop, and you get $300 million of economic value just immediately.
I mean, as a marketer though, the game mechanics are pretty
wild.
pretty epic the way they built
but
this
think
thing.
about like startup founders that are like looking to raise money.
Oh,
and
they're
they can't,
killing
like-
themselves to get like 1 mil, just killing themselves.
Armand, I hope you wrote that business plan in pencil.
Yeah, Steno was just an L2 with like a multi-sig.
Oh my God, it would have like be billions already.
It's like it's an AI based layer 2 Silicon Valley founder back at 100 mil. But no, you're doing hard mode, Armand.
Well, TVL is different than money invested in the project. We got to get in these projects beforehand because, like, while I'm like reading this, I'm like getting excited. I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. Kind of want to play along. At the same time, I'm like, there was a group of people.
You want like the advisor shares, the early.
Like this airdrop token, whatever it's going to be called. Like, they're at a discount to whatever the market's going to get. And I think as a group, listeners included. We need
Alfalfa
to get,
Syndicate. Win.
yeah, we need to
Win.
get weasel our way in, because I think that is the ultimate way.
It's pretty wild if some guy just YOLOs in 20 mil and he just gets like a $6 million airdrop.
Yeah.
Oof. Well, Steven, I thought you played this pretty well. So and thanks for not responding to my text last night, by the way.
Wait, what?
It's okay. It's fine. You were busy.
I mean, I was.
Yeah, you were. So, one way is just to obviously bridge some money over and hope that you get a meaningful airdrop. But Steven was kind of a little ahead of the game. Not yesterday, maybe the day before. You bought some Blur.
Yeah, a few days ago.
You bought some Blur, and I thought it was a nice risk return situation, because having Blur boosts the incentives of bridging some money over. And so you made some money without having to take any technical risk, without having to take any liquidity risk. And I think you're up quite a bit. I mean, I saw it up 40% today.
Yeah, bottom ticked it. It's up like 50% already. It's a good example of the chart, just knowing stuff before the market does.
Did you see that in the chart? Because this is...
I just bought it based on the chart. I didn't know all the stuff was happening.
You didn't know?
I was like, that looks...
It wasn't about like Pac-Man's affiliation or anything.
No.
Wow.
I didn't see any. I didn't know any of this. Like the second it was like kind of announced and became, now everybody started obviously buying it up, and I think a token
That is a pretty
came
cool...
close to 50 cents today.
That's a cool hat tip to like technical analysis, I think.
Yeah. Do you guys own any Blur?
No.
Negative, sir.
I feel like Blur is going to be one of the big winners this cycle eventually. And it's going to be really freaking obvious in retrospect. Because, like, we talk about how Solana was kind of dead and now it's back and it's just crushing, right? There's nothing deader than NFTs. Like, NFTs are so dead. Like, the deadest of dead. But, like, we remember what they were like during their, like, hype cycle, like the peak hype. And I remember when they were happening, I was thinking to myself, this is so a thing. Like, this is obviously a thing. Like, I see how it affects people. I see why people like this, right? And then obviously price nukes 99 to 100%. And you're like, that was dumb. I'm so stupid, right? And then the price just kind of guides how you feel.
Feach donated $20.69. Said, thankful for Alfalfa. Happy Thanksgiving, boys.
Oh,
I'm being
Feach.
told that Feach has donated.
$20.69. How lovely of you.
Saying
Wish
Big hug, brother.
us all a happy
happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
to everyone in Alfalfa.
Thank you, Feach. We love you.
Thank you, Feach.
Roll one up for us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
But yeah, Blur. I'm tired of NFT. They're exhausting, right? So my NFT thing for this cycle is going to be like buy Punk, buy Blur token, and then just don't pay attention.
You kind of gave me PTSD. You're like, you remember the peak? And I remember the peak because I happened to be in Vegas with some family, felt a little gambly. And I noticed that my CryptoPunk was probably worth like, I don't know, like 600, 800K.
You're like, this
And
makes
I'm
sense.
texting with Eric
This
and our
makes
other
sense.
buddy. And I'm like, what are we doing, boys? And we're like, I think all three of us replied,
Holding
we're fucking
to the
holding.
moon, baby.
We're keep holding. My business partner, without asking him, just randomly text me, you need to sell it immediately. Anyway,
But
I
does
remember
he have
those
a Punk
times.
now?
He does have a Punk now.
He does.
He rebought. He rebought in.
Well, there goes my point.
Yeah. We're back.
I guess you can sell the top and rebuy the bottom.
I have some shitcoin confessions to make.
Yeah. What are you doing?
I don't know. I played around this weekend.
Which
Little Sunday
coins we
night
talking?
special. Got some time on my hands. I bought some things. I don't know if I should have bought them. I bought the one you suggested on Magic Lines, I think.
Which
or was
one?
it Irresponsibly Long? Winner token, WINR.
Oh, yeah.
Nice little 15 mil market cap token for.
God, that thing can run.
It's just like a complete degen casino, which I really love. Decentralized casino. I feel like that's what people come to crypto for. If not to like invest in it implicitly, that's what you come here for. I bought Scale, SKL. It's a EVM compatible like gaming L1. Don't ask me to provide a reason. And the third, I bought some FriendPet, which is down bigly because they just FriendPet is like a FriendTech style app. You put it on your phone, same way you would use FriendTech, except it's a little Tamagotchi game you play with.
Okay.
Little risk element there. Anyway, I bought some. Pretty sure it's down 50% already.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
devs are down big.
I'm already exhausted. I was exhausted just like listening to
It's
that.
kind of funny to hear you guys talk about this because I think we all have our own personal risk tolerances where like I could tell Steven's like, yeah, I'll do some NFTs, but it's only gonna be punks and blur. And then like you're talking about these shit coins, you might be further out on the risk curve than anybody.
Well, I sized them appropriately. Let's
Okay,
just
you
say
size
that.
them appropriately. I'm like disinterested in sort of shit coining at all. Maybe I'll like be sparked again if we're like deep enough into a bull market. But like I feel like, any of these coins that are sort of like the blue chips can also run considerably. So I don't really need to like step further out.
Can we, before we get in the blue chips, can we talk about some of the crypto stonks? Your Riot play is playing out beautifully.
Riot is
November seasonality, French kiss. Yeah, playing up well. Did you buy the options or you buy the common stock?
I bought options. I bought March 15 calls. Got an average. I probably got in around like a $1.05 on the calls. Got like 90% of my position off. I think I'm good.
I'm split between that position and the leaps, like January of 2026.
Dude, did you see Tether, the thing going around with Tether?
Sure
so they're
did,
gonna
bud.
put like $500 million and deploy a lot of it into like Bitcoin mining stocks.
So yeah, they want to get into the mining game, so they're going to get their own ASICs. Plus, let's just get some exposure through the publicly traded versions.
I just docked them 30 IQ points for getting into the mining game, but yeah, sure.
I don't know. Maybe mining is good now.
No, mining is the worst business model in the entire world.
excuse
You
me,
say
sir.
that now.
Stop
but
flooding my bags.
No, it's fine. The stock will go up. The stock price will go up, but being an owner of a mining company sounds
Oh, it's
horrendous.
awful business.
Yeah.
Maybe your time horizon's just not long enough.
Yeah.
As long as the Bitcoin price doubles by fucking April.
Only time horizon you need to worry about is every 2.5 years you need to recapitalize the entire company with new equipment. That sounds real fun.
You're like the guy who owned all that land on Mount Soledad in San Diego. Like, what am I supposed to do with all this land? Just some cows on it. Like, who wants this land? Bam.
Could be.
Yeah.
The other one that probably most people played along with us in is some Coinbase.
Sure hope you guys did.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm up like 120% or so on
So
that now. That's crazy.
I wanted to talk about something with you guys because I noticed something. At the time I purchased, I think Coinbase was around 70-ish, let's call it. I bought the 105 strike price leaps. And I noticed that in terms of my rate of return, like the options are just barely outpacing the common stock. And so is that a function of delta, which that tells you how much the option price is moving relative to the stock price? And should I expect that to move more as we get closer to the expiration or further past my strike price? Does anyone know the answer to that?
It really depends on what you bought. Like for people out there who don't know anything about options, there's like a few components of an options contract. You've got your delta, you've got your vega, you've got your gamma, and then you've got your theta, right? Theta being time, vega being volatility, delta is how much the option changes with the price of the underlying. And then the complicated one is gamma. Gamma is sort of like convexity.
It's the rate of change of delta.
It's sort of like it's the rate of change of delta. Is that a derivative?
Yeah, second derivative.
Yeah. So I don't know. Depending on the strike price you bought, like when you buy your option, it's a good idea to look at like what am I buying? Am I speculating on? Everybody thinks they're speculating on price, right? But a lot of times people are actually speculating on vol, just as much or even
It's more on the short maturities. Like on the shorter maturities is more of a vol game. If you go longer maturities, it's much more like you're buying the common stock. And I assume you went with the leaps.
Yeah, December 2025.
So it's gonna closely mirror the stock particularly in this like early stages.
Until when?
Well, what I would recommend to anybody is just like there's these option calculators online where you can like plug in a target price and see which performs better, the stonk or the option. You like plug in your option observable data, the maturity and everything, and that'll give you the exact answer. You don't have to like really learn all these Greeks. But like with yours, what you'll find is that when you're out of the money, the delta will be lower than something that's in the money. But then the gamma is going to be higher. So those things offset as the stock price is increasing.
Okay.
So, like how that converges.
What do you think? Let's say it's end of 2024 So I still got a year left in these things. Let's say Coinbase is at 300, 400. What do you think will be more profitable, selling the option or actually exercising the option? Or should it be?
Well, you're going to make more money selling the option
Okay.
because you're going to have like some time premium and like implied vol attached to the option.
Okay.
Yeah, like if Riot goes to like $40 tomorrow, it's going to like be worth like a ton because the exercise date is still way out in the future, right? So you have like as Eric said, you have all that like time is something that costs money, right? If you want to buy time, you're paying for it, right? And if I'm selling that option with like a ton of time, somebody's buying that, like I'm compensated for that. So it's I don't know. I don't trade them that much, to be honest. I think they're fun, like trading 0 days, like if you're kind of day trading and like you're actually systematically doing stuff, because like some of the gains on them could be wild if you like time these like moves
And
properly.
this mentality is what makes my whole livelihood. So I like that you're pitching this because I just sell them all the time.
You sell these suckers.
I sell lotto tickets
Do you sell any 0 day options?
all the time.
You do.
Yeah.
Your portfolio is up quite a bit. I know you probably don't want to share it publicly, but like, you know,
Well,
privately, you're
Yeah. In this day and age, I mean, I think NASDAQ's up 40% this year. So like it's easy to be up this year.
yeah. I guess you're right, but you've definitely added some alpha.
Yeah,
over there.
I feel kind of weird because it's like it feels weird getting rich after like coming out of this bear market. I feel like is it too soon?
I mean, this is just like 2021. You know how 2021 everybody was just a genius for just buying stuff and like everybody was a day trader and if you just bought stuff you made money. Hasn't the last like 2 years just been like everybody who sold premium is a genius? Like hasn't that just like wildly outperformed everything? Like there hasn't been a ton of realized vol, right?
Well, I think that's kind of interesting because the three of us probably on an episode maybe a month ago, I guess you were asking me like, what are you doing in the options game? And I told you there's nothing coming up on my screener that I look to sell options.
Right.
Basically saying premiums are so low, this is a good time to be buying.
Yeah, we were talking a couple months ago about how like being long like crypto options seemed like really good. Like it's such a sustained period of nothing. And then coming into what we presumed might be like a nice season.
Yeah.
Again, ended up just playing that via the miners.
Okay, what about this piece of news that came in recently? I think it's kind of associated to Coinbase, but like CZ just got nabbed here, or did he? Binance got
All I think is good for coin
$4
bags. Oh yeah, I
billion.
saw Steven's post. Steven posted a Twitter of CZ saying 4, which is his little moniker saying all's good.
Yeah,
Like
hold.
don't
Yeah.
worry about the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's all good. And Steven posted $4,000 Coinbase.
Yeah, this has to be positive coin. I think this was like one of the our thesis going in was like when all the competitors just start falling by the wayside, FTX, BlockFi, Voyager, etc. Now Binance getting slapped. Like there's only one left standing.
I will say I was kind of, as a Coinbase bag holder, I was a little disappointed that they're still going to operate, right? And Coinbase got the
Yeah.
license to do some perpetual futures internationally, and I was hoping that the Binance house would crumble, and then Coinbase would be left with the spoils. But I still think they probably have a little.
So
better
can
pedigree
you
now.
just tell me what happened with CZ? He's out now.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine this whole time, everyone's been following on Twitter. You've been seeing some stuff that Binance can have some issues, and it's been, I don't know, a year. Probably this whole time he was negotiating with the Justice Department on like, okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to provide us? Give us some scalps to show our bosses that we did good job. It sounds like he's stepping down as CEO. He's somewhat banned from Binance, looks like, for 3 years.
Is he going to jail? Like, is that a thing?
Well,
You could still face like
Yeah.
12 to 18 months or something, I saw.
but Arthur Hayes, who came around a similar slapdown for not following the KYC and anti-money laundering rules as like specifically as he should have been, he got some house arrest basically, and so he kind of negotiated his way around it. But
That also kicked off the last bull.
Yep.
Like the Arthur Hayes news was like immediate like mega candle, right?
So is CZ like the sacrificial lamb? Like, okay, here's our scalp. Now give us the goddamn bull market.
Dude, the books looked interesting today. I mean, somebody was just twapping all day.
Really?
Just buy.
Bitcoin, ETH, what?
I mean, I saw like somebody in one of my groups was showing the Coinbase order books, and they were just
coin
just,
stonk.
Oh my god, no, like the Bitcoin.
Oh, the
like,
Bitcoin
on
order
Coinbase.
book.
So there's
I
just
see.
like limit order, just a wall of them. I was like, oh my god. And if you just like pull up like an ETH chart today, it's just like whenever you see price just up, somebody's.
Last 36
Somebody's
hours,
twapping.
ETH was just step function.
Did you say twap or twap?
I like
Sounds like
twap.
such a dirty word.
I say TWAP, but I've
TWAP.
also found in TradFi those orders are really unreliable in TradFi because they can like easy come easy go, like they just disappear out of nowhere.
There's a guy in one of my groups who actually trades like the order flow, which is not something that I do. And there's an art, I guess, to seeing if those are real orders or spoofs. And he was pretty adamant that they were like legit. And I think he just was like, I'm going with the tide and just flipped long. I mean, we had a big day today. I mean, Sol was up 14%. ETH was up like 8% at one point.
Does it look real? Does it look strong?
Yeah, it looks pretty strong. I mean, none of the... I've had like a short-term bearish bias for a little bit. And actually none of that was really invalidated today.
Yeah.
It kind of feels to me like mentally I'm like, it just seems like it's over and we should just be long. But like if I look at my like system, like I'm like truly looking at it, I'm like, I can.
So we've been talking about it on Irresponsibly Long, and I've been following along your Magic Lines content. Like it seems like we're kind of butting up against these supply zones, particularly in ETH is what I'm thinking of. Like this seems kind of like the point at which it might reverse or not, but like this seems like the place.
ETH has such a funny little support resistance area here around like 2000, because like depending on how exactly you draw the line, right, you can kind of see anything that you want. It's more like a zone, right? It's not a clean line.
Yeah.
But you can draw it where you're like, oh, we're like through. We're through. We just flipped this generational thing into support. And then there's also a way you can draw it where you're like, no, this is this is a failed test and we're gonna go down. So it's kind of got something for everybody there. But I think zooming way out, like we're gonna push through this level and it's just gonna
$2,000 ETH or $2,100 ETH.
Yeah, whether or not we go back to 17 first, it's like whatever.
Yeah, I noticed on Thursday, the 16th, we hit a price of $20.92, and today that was the top. That same thing. Is there anything to decipher there?
Depending on which exchange you're looking at, like we barely took like a high or didn't. I didn't have a lot of time to look at all of it, but it just looks so juicy, like 18 in the mid 18s.
Okay.
It just looks like it wants like ETH definitely wants 2150. Like I'll be stunned if we don't take those highs, like just stunned. That in some point, like relatively soon.
You're talking about months, not weeks.
I think weeks, but whether or not it's going to give us like a dip first, like I don't know, but like I feel like pretty confident in like the higher time frame. Like that's the draw right now. And again, like if you look at the ETH Bitcoin chart, I mean that thing has so much to go up. Like if we reverse there, like we'd be at like close to $3,000 ETH if it just went back to just parity with Bitcoin. I mean, it's been selling off so bad.
So Nick was
all year.
pretty infamous with his trade going from Bitcoin to ETH, right? You kind of bottom ticked that one.
Yeah, I think it was like 0.051-ish, somewhere around
But
there.
then you also had limit orders below that. Have you like started to move those up at all? Or are you just waiting for those?
No, just going to keep them there. Like, I might even sell some more to ETH right now, like where I figured we would just play in this range of like 0.05 to 0.055 for a while. So, going to continue to do it. And I've never done one of these like played the ratios before. Last cycle, I never played any of the ratios. Like when something went up, I didn't convert it to something else. I was always thinking about taxes, and I was like, I'm just going to keep it simple. But when you look at it, going from 0.05 to 0.07, which is very reasonable in the next, say, 12, 18 months, it's another juicy like 40% gain on your USD value. So paying a little more closer attention to it and kind of seeing the benefit of paying attention to it, specifically Bitcoin ETH, because I've had Bitcoin for a long time and I don't want to hold it long term. I'd rather hold ETH. So seems ripe.
It's funny that you say that because I have been like an anti-Bitcoiner. Like I say that I'm not actually an anti-Bitcoiner. I have some, but I've always been like an ETH guy. And after all this crap that I see just kind of like resurfacing again, it makes me want Bitcoin just because I really do see like the value.
Are you sure there was plenty of transaction fees on Bitcoin? I think it surpassed ETH for a while.
For a day or so.
And it wasn't, things you'd want to show off to your mom and dad.
I just like, even when we're talking about the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana sort of narratives on our most recent Irresponsibly Long, like I don't know. I'm just coming around to this notion that Bitcoin is pretty good. Like it's just like it's in its like final iteration. At least.
Man, this is when I should sell it.
No,
if you're thinking it's like
no, I think that Bitcoin is pretty good. It's gonna be 100K eventually. Like I just don't know that I want to be playing in the shitcoin land. Like I'm not even comparing Bitcoin to ETH or even Solana really, but like
you gotta compare it to ETH though, right? That's like
well, I'm like an all ETH
question.
I'm an all ETH guy essentially. Yeah. Like not technically, but essentially.
I'm struggling to find the argument for Bitcoin over ETH, like from this point forward. Like, what is the argument for that? Like, Bitcoin's best thing, I think, going into this cycle is that it was going to be like institutional coin, but like ETH is going to be. I think ETH's going to be institutional coin now. And like maybe they're both like equally institutional, but like ETH has like a much tinier market cap. It's gonna benefit a lot more from those flows.
So if I can like place myself back to when you guys were first introducing me to crypto, this was like 2019, and I was like kind of a hater on all of it, and I was first sort of indoctrinated with Bitcoin as everybody was at that time, and then from there you kind of like branch out, and it's like okay, smart contracts, etc. I think if new financial advisors go through that same path, but it's today, not 2019, it doesn't follow the same path that I followed. I think it's like, I think you might start to say like, oh, smart contracts. Oh, but this one is slower and more expensive, and this one's faster and easier to use. And I think you have to kind of consider these things, even if I'm still like an ETH guy.
I agree. I think the traditional financial advisor, Van Eck's putting out ETH stuff, Fidelity's putting out ETH write-ups. And if you have an ETH ETF that comes on the heels of a Bitcoin ETF, you could see them kind of learn faster than what we all went through maybe last cycle or the cycle before. So that'll be interesting. I just think it's going to take time, for these things to work themselves into portfolios and actually make a move.
I could see ETH getting worked in so fast. Like I feel like it's so much. I don't know. Do you guys agree? Like I feel like it's so much easier for TradFi people to wrap their head around ETH because you're like, oh, it's basically like an app programming layer and it derives value from like the number of like apps built on top of it.
I think if you tell them it's AWS, a decentralized AWS, they're like,
okay,
so
like
faster.
Bitcoin, you're like, wait, why does it?
Can I like just say what I've been meaning to say? Like, I'll make it as simple as possible. I think that crypto people care about decentralization more than anybody else. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think that like financial advisors are going to care that Solana is less decentralized than ETH.
And they're going to care that it doesn't have an ETF though.
But if ETH has an ETF, then maybe it opens the floodgates to fucking everything.
I don't
ETF.
think so, because I think the thing that's going to give ETH the ETF is the CME. Like that's like the linchpin right now is that
they have futures.
If it
CME
stays
futures.
at those two, then I see like a lot of value just splashing onto ETH as that narrative shifts. But if it just like floodgates open, then I could totally see the financial advisor mindset go through a very rapid transition to what took me a while, which was like, okay, so first Bitcoin, then ETH. I think they just go Bitcoin, ETH, and then the next.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know if this is interesting to point out, but I noticed that in the case against CZ, they said, you were kind of had an unregistered securities exchange, and they mentioned Solana in there. And I don't know if that matters, but we kind of have like a insight into the SEC's viewpoint on Solana. Maybe that's happened with ETH in the past, and I missed it, but it seems like ETH and Bitcoin have been missing from when they've been making those claims and kind of taking action against people and companies. You guys want to move a little away from crypto? I have some other option stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
I made a bet. So Eric's been big into this GLP-1 drug. So we're talking Wegovy and Ozempic.
Guys investing in obesity.
Yes. And like,
God, can I just say
This
that
is
we
mad.
spend so much time on these coins, right? These coins are not the only way to make money in markets.
right.
And I think like we collectively and also our audience just like focuses too much on the coins.
Yeah, so we read. There's a guy on Twitter. His name is Citrini. He's a pretty good analyst, I'd say. Steven first brought him to our attention when he kind of analyzed the AI space. Just kind of back up his street cred. He kind of also called Silicon Valley Bank way before, probably months before it happened. So this guy's got some street cred. He's got some results. But his analysis on the GLP-1 market it's an hour read, the whole analysis, and it's up for free if you kind of go to his Substack. So go to his Twitter, look at Substack. The analysis is about, I think it's June of last year or June of this year. Sorry. So it's a few months old, but I think he already made his win, so he's happy to show it publicly. But I saw a little name mentioned on there, Weight Watchers. So he analyzes everything. He obviously mentions Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, which I bought some of. And
So Novo's the Ozempic.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the plan.
Eli
Ozempic.
Lilly has the
Eli has a competitor.
Monjaro.
I saw you guys talking about Weight Watchers a little bit, but I was trying to figure out like how.
So let me
Weight Watchers
let me
fits
frame it
into
up a
this.
little bit.
Yeah,
so
frame
I
it
think,
up.
like here's what you think. Like if you have this like big growth theme, which is like these GLP-1 drugs, and like Novo and Eli Lilly are already like priced in
Significant growth.
significantly, like 400 billion and 600 billion market cap. So they're already huge. You start to like look out and say like, what are the ancillary plays that will also benefit from this like thematic growth? And that's what Nick's talking about here. Is like, what's something that's smaller that can still like ride this wave?
Yeah, so a few of his ideas, we should probably just list off a few of them so
Yeah.
people get an idea. Like one was the actual, so you inject Ozempic,
yeah.
and the people who manufacture the injectors. He mentions those.
So yeah, so like right now, the big problem with these GLP-1s is it's like supply constrained, and it's not supply of the GLP-1 drug itself. It's the supply of the injection pens. Like you can't get enough injection pens. So one idea is to like buy the companies that make the pens.
Right. And there's a company who even is like providing automation to the manufacturing to makes the pens. A company called AVS, who I'm still researching. I don't really know anything about it yet, but it's intrigued me. So that's one. He
Yep.
even mentions healthcare insurers. So right now, if you're diabetic, you can get this paid for by insurance. But we know the real play is that every average Joe, even though they may not be diabetic, they're still going to want to use this. And right now, it's pretty expensive. It's hundreds of dollars a month in order
$1,000.
to $1,000.
$1,000 a month.
Yeah,
really.
and while
Out of
price
pocket,
price
yeah.
may come down, Eric and I were talking about that. The risk reward is going to become very apparent to these insurers. That if I can take my client who is obese, drop them 30 pounds, bring them back into a non-obese state, and therefore, kind of decrease their risk of heart disease, liver disease, like just name your disease that is a
Because that's where the
byproduct.
real expense comes in for the insurers, is like actually like treating people that have like suffered heart attacks and stuff. Like it's
Yeah, so
bad.
I think the actuaries are going to do their math at some point and be like, you know what, fuck it, let's pay for it.
Let's
for everyone.
subsidize these drugs.
At least subsidize it, because in the end we're going to be more profitable. So the insurers are part of this portfolio, a way to play this.
Here's another one that I think that he put in there that's pretty cool. It's like there's also ancillary plays to short. like as these GLP-1s start to succeed, what are things that are going to maybe die? And one thing he mentioned was the CPAP machine that you sleep with, that mask on your face that helps you breathe for people with what is that called?
Sleep apnea.
Sleep apnea, deviated septum or whatever. So there's, I can't even remember the company, but there's a company that like literally just sells the CPAP mask, and that's like $30 billion or
So
something.
they're vulnerable to people losing
And
weight and not
be
needing
like-
it anymore.
They'll be disrupted immediately.
God, can you imagine running that company in the boardroom? You're just like, people are becoming healthier. We're ruined.
Yeah, they can breathe again.
They're breathing again. Shit.
What do we do?
So anyway, to Weight Watchers, he mentions Weight Watchers, and I don't know if by skill or by luck, these guys acquired a company called Sequence Health, which can give out prescriptions remotely. And one of the prescriptions that they can give out are these GLP-1 drugs remotely. Hello. So Weight Watchers is finishing up the acquisition. And I want to talk about this, Eric, because I just read the most recent earnings call, and it seemed like
And you immediately YOLO'd in.
I was like, well,
I
I tiptoed in.
Okay.
I was like, all right, let's just get in
because I saw
I gotta
Radino in the
pull
parking
this
lot.
chart up.
And he said he did not tiptoe.
yeah.
He's not a tiptoeer. We know that.
Steven's taught me that, like, hey, if you feel something, just put a little in at the moment.
You always got to put a little in.
So put 10% in, put 20% in, whatever you feel like the moment you like it, just to have some skin in the game.
Is Weight Watchers WW?
WW, sir.
Okay.
Core business is kind of taking a shit. But because they own this Sequence Health, they are probably going to be on commercials, on radio commercials, everywhere, marketing that, hey, there's a weight loss cure.
Oh my God. And you
this chart looks interesting.
and you too in particular know this game better than anybody. Once you have a paying customer's email address that you know that they want to lose weight and they're willing to pay money to lose weight, you can probably like target them for this upsell.
Yeah, like if this stock doesn't go up, I'm gonna like sue the executive management for just bad faith, because like you have the most enormous database of people who want to lose weight. Come along, magic drug, which you can prescribe and make money from.
Okay,
You
so
should be able to, as a
Weight
marketer,
Watchers is
figure
down
this out.
down like 95, 96%.
Oh yeah,
From all-time highs. And it looks like it moved a decent amount off the bottom in April. Is that what this was? Or
yeah. I mean, I think March is when it kind of like finalized, but they're still integrating it. And they mentioned that they still understand the supply chain constraints of these GLP-1 drugs. So I think they kind of have to get this marketing engine up and going. It's going to involve a call center, all kinds of online marketing, all kinds of marketing. But you may know Weight Watchers as like the hymns for prescribing GLP-1 drugs in a year from now.
So can we talk about the fundamentals? I actually dug in here a little bit.
So I sent Eric a screenshot of the options contracts I bought on Weight Watchers. He's like, well, I dug in. And I'm like, wait, should I revoke the order or you didn't give me the answer?
No, I think it's a fun play.
Okay.
Here's what I'm thinking though, like in terms of timing. So their core business is still the business, meaning like their little point system for diet and stuff. Like ultimately that is going to be complementary to their GLP-1 prescription business, in a way that is probably symbiotic. But for now, that business is declining, and there's a seasonality component to that. Like I think when you go into Christmas, it's the worst one, but then like the start of the new year, you get like the New Year's resolution kind of game. So Q1, like after the Q1 numbers are reported, I would expect that stock to rally as people like come back into it.
Even though they're going off benchmarks from the previous.
Of course, but also, these, like even this new business, right? They call it the clinical prescriptions, which is the GLP-1. It's such a small sliver now. I think they have like, I can't even remember if it's 6 million or 4 million customers on the core, and there's like 40,000 clinical. It's such a small number. It's almost zero. They're actually predicting that number to go down before like into the new year and in Q1, because they can't even get the drug to the people. It's so supply constrained that they're like, we're not even giving guidance
so they
on
can't
this.
sell more is what you're saying.
Yeah, they can't sell more. So I think like Q1, after Q1 or mid Q1 is when I would like want to enter that trade that you just made.
Okay.
and maybe the price doesn't move, or maybe it does. I don't know, but like, I think you're on the right track. I want to be on that business too, but
Chart's very interesting.
talk about the chart.
Yeah, I mean, like kind of hard to talk about a chart.
Nah, but just give us the high level.
So the chart was down only for a while, sort of flatlined, possible accumulation bottom, and then you have that kind of reverse nuke upward.
Yeah, it like went
Off
from like
lows,
$3
right?
to $7 over the
Yeah.
last couple months.
And you typically don't want to get in on that, right? You want to look for some sort of retracement into like an initial kind of key area where we kind of got that last move from, and then kind of go there. And yeah, we're like right off that zone. Like $6 to $7.50 or so was like you could call that like a breaker if you're doing technicals. So that's what we flipped, turned into support, went up, and now we've come all the way back down. We're testing that zone again, and we're like 50% off the high, and then we're coming into what you say is going to be when you want to see this thing take off, Q1.
So here's another thing on the fundamental, because I thank you for that, because that's going to help me time it. But on the fundamentals, here's an issue, Nick, that I kind of came across. Like, so they're not able to prescribe these to anybody that's on like government health care. And like that makes up a big portion of our like obese population.
Interesting. Okay.
Poor black
Why
women.
not?
Poor black women, basically, is who they can't service. So they can only service private insurance. And there's probably a lot of people that do have private insurance. But then my question would be like, why would they pay an extra $100 to Weight Watchers to get the prescription when they just go to their provider and get the same exact thing?
Yeah.
If it's available.
No, I mean, that's a good point. Like in this report, there's a ton of gems, and this is one of them to play. And I liked it because it was just down only.
And it's like off the beaten path.
Yeah, and then
This was a Citrini play.
yeah, this is a Citrini play. I think he had it weighted pretty low, probably call it medium in terms of
like
his.
maybe.
Dude, I saw
Yeah.
like Citrini's portfolio, by the way, was like so much more equally weighted than I would set it up.
Agreed.
Like he has his Novo at like 8% and his Weight Watchers at like 5%. Like, and all the little YOLOs are like 5%.
So he's got probably like 12 to 16 stocks in there, something like that. Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly only represent 15, 20% of it probably, which is surprising because I would make that the bulk of it. I mean, can we talk about those real quickly? Like,
yeah, I think like let's combine them into one. Like Novo and Lilly, in my mind, are the easiest longs ever, and I don't even really need to go further out on the risk curve on these because, although they are huge, like I don't think we're pricing in how big this market actually will be.
how many customers do you think they're saying they have now, and like what do you think the market is pricing in?
So I think the key is going to be, is this going to be treating obesity or just diabetes, right? So diabetes, they have like a huge market already, and that's like what the market cap is based on. But like obesity is not really being prescribed yet. There's 100,000 prescriptions for the obesity use case globally. 100,000. I think that can 1,000x. The prescription number can 1,000x.
Agreed. I mean, if you said, hey guys, looking back at like 2023, there was a drug invented to help cure obesity, and you missed it because you were 6 months in, and yeah, the stocks went up double, but
you
like
were looking at fucking coins.
you were distracted by coins, and you said, they're already up 100%. But this is like a decade long play, and I even bought it in my IRA.
Yeah,
because I'm like,
this feels to me like AI, but with only two players. Like it's like if you could play the AI game and know with certainty that there's only two winners, then that's like this game.
There will be more entering. It sounds like Pfizer's trying to enter. It doesn't sound like they're being successful at it, but you will see more attempt to enter. So,
oh man, and like I could talk about this forever, but there's even upside on the diabetes side because this semaglutide or whatever that Novo makes actually like was proven to cure diabetes. So when you're treating diabetes, you still need to take insulin shots. But this thing if you took it for like 6 months, they said like you no longer have to take insulin anymore.
Huh.
Right. And the immediate answer is like, but the side effects, they're trade-offs. And we even talked about it when we first mentioned this, like, oh, there's going to be trade-offs. Like, I don't know if I want to put this in my body. But I think if you're talking about someone who's obese, you might say, well, the benefit from decreasing your chance of heart disease or whatever the other downstream effects are is worth the hormonal imbalance or whatever it may affect as a trade-off.
Yeah, and I think like the bull case here is like if you really start to dream on it, like these drugs will be prescribed as like treatments for heart and liver use cases, not just the obesity, right? Because like it's such high comorbidities. So I mean, 1,000x in terms of like prescription growth.
Yeah, I mean,
in my
it's
opinion.
tough with these market caps though. We're talking 400 billion, 600 billion. So do we realistically see
like
a
how-
drug maker being like $1 trillion company?
Yeah, how
It's
big could it
tough.
possibly
You
get?
just need to use leverage, man.
Yeah,
Which I'm not afraid to employ.
leverage, convexity.
Is there there's good liquidity in like Leaps markets?
Oh
for
my
these?
god, yeah, I'm all over it. And like they're cheap. The leaps are cheap because it's kind of like low vol. It's like steady climber. It's not like a spiker, so it's like low vol, but pretty cheap options if you want to go long.
I'm sure the market's pricing in maybe like a 20%, 25% probability that the insurers are going to, subsidize this thing. But I think it's an eventual certainty at some point. The insurers will see that they can save an enormous amount of money in the long run.
And the reason why I like Novo better, it's like more of a pure play. Lilly does like a bunch of other stuff too. But Novo's business is so good just treating diabetes that, this thing with its growth and with its immense potential is still trading at 30 times forward earnings, which is like not that much higher than the S&P. It's close
50%
to fucking-
higher.
close to General Mills, honestly. Like it's kind of pissing me off. So like I really want to talk about this and drive it home because this to me, like Coinbase and Novo are just so obvious.
I like those. I mean, like it's definitely had a run up, but I mean, if you're 6 months, a year into this thematic play, like you got to get in at some point and might as well just stick a toe in now and like see what happens over the next 6 months. But I think like news announcements are going to be in its favor. All right. Any other thematic plays since we just talked about two of them?
I'm the guy you talked about, where I'm just long coins.
I know. And you're just buried.
But you're good at it,
head's
though.
buried in the sand.
I mean, I've been like swing trading NASDAQ, and like I've been bullish on it. So I've been looking for these sort of, targeted longs just with futures. But I don't own any stocks.
Do you have
right
a
now.
retirement plan? Like an actual like IRA or 401k?
I have a SEP,
Same.
and it's just basically all in like venture investments that'll all go to zero. So I basically don't have anything other than my.
I mean, I eventually plan to like convert my SEP to like a self-managed one where I can do some real estate plays. But I kind of there's some stuff in the stock market that I still like, and
Dude, I should have set this thing up years ago to do. It's so good for doing like altcoin trading because you
can
can
find a
just,
trustee to like.
Well, I have like a self-directed. I just like never really funded it. But yeah, you can set it up, and then you can basically just make like a Coinbase or some account in the name of that, and then like you can kind of go in and out of the market. Like that's what.
This is Peter Thiel approach, right?
He put his PayPal stock in there.
Peter Thiel puts PayPal and his like Facebook VC investment.
Well, it's good for crypto because like you actually do want to sell. And like if you're in California and you're buying and selling, like taxes are murdering you. But if it's like in this big tax deferred bucket, it's like amazing. It's a good play, and I wish I did that more. Like I had a bunch tied up in like illiquid real estate loans and a bunch in like illiquid venture stuff, and basically got none of it into crypto, which is going to end up being a huge oversight on my part, especially if you're talking about being able to just like buy and hold like, STETH.
Yeah.
Steth.
Sure.
Do you guys call it Steth or STETH?
No, STE.
STE.
STETH.
Yeah, please
I feel like
don't.
everybody calls it Steth.
Let's stay in our
Is
little
Steth
bubble.
like calling it ETH?
Ew,
I hate when
Oh.
people call it ETH.
That hurt my ears.
gross.
I know.
All right, so I kind of want to stick with the money thing, but I do want to talk about this Javier Malay?
It was a good tie-in because like a lot of people are saying this is like kind of like it's like a bullish Bitcoin thing we've got going on here.
I don't think it's bullish
Argentina.
Bitcoin. I think it's bullish the U.S. dollar. But so Argentina had its elections, and do we call him a far right? Like if we look at the political compass, where does this guy
Dude,
sit?
I hate it when they just they call everybody who's like on the right. Everybody's just like far right. It's just like this like catch-all term they just throw out. It's like supposed to like scare you. I think. Like, ooh,
So where do you think he would fall on the
He
political
seems like
compass?
an anarcho-capitalist.
Yeah, I think he's okay with that term too. So things he's talked about that we should probably mention. He is pro Bitcoin. He would like to switch the currency of Argentina to the dollar. He's most famous for saying he's going to cut fiscal spending drastically. And as some context, probably should mention first that Argentina has about 150% inflation rate. So imagine getting your paycheck from your employer and having to spend it as fast as possible because every week your money is going to lose 3 to 5%. And you cannot save money in your own government's currency because it's inflating at such a high rate. So he's saying we're going to drastically cut funding. He's talking about like literally just lopping off whole government, departments.
I saw him pulling those off the whiteboard.
Yeah. And
He's like, afuera,
outside.
afuera. He's just like diversity out.
Yeah.
He's
I mean,
education out. He's just like every single department. He's just throwing it out. He's showing up with like a chainsaw to rallies and stuff.
yeah, chainsaw. Like I'm going to cut the budget so much. Like just call me
like I don't know if everybody's seen this guy. He looks like a character. He's got like mutton chops and
Wild hair.
I first saw him when he was doing that. Have you seen that interview clip where he's like calling? He's on the. The translation. He's like
leftards.
He's calling them leftards. I'm like, what? My first thought was, wait, there's a Spanish word for leftard.
What is that word?
He's like, she's like, why do you call them shit? And he's like, because they are shit. And he just like has this whole spiel. But yeah, I was like, oh, I didn't know like leftard was a word that translated.
So he's kind of using the Trump playbook, whether like he intentionally made to do it, but he is such a kind of like bombastic character that the news put him on because it's good for ratings to put this guy on. Well, it elevated his status, elevated his awareness, and I think you have a population.
He won by a lot.
Yeah, and I think you have a population in Argentina is like, well, we're literally collapsing as we speak. So I'm not sure if this guy is going to collapse us even more, but at least he's going to do something different.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of dire straits the populace is in terms of voting this guy into office. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, he's said some pretty outlandish shit. I mean, he's used more inflammatory language than we've used on this podcast.
What do you think is like the most outlandish thing about him? Anything come to mind?
Well, he went very libertarian and saying, yeah, you can sell your organs.
Yeah, he seems to be like super... But I don't know. He seems like he's like anti-abortion at the same time. But he's kind of like
kind of weird.
He's not like all in one box. But yeah, I remember seeing him saying like, "Yeah, sell your organs, whatever."
Yeah, and I think it's like kind of the libertarian thing. Like, well, can you do this? Well, government should have any say. But it's weird that he is anti-abortion. But the thing I found most interesting is that he wants to switch to the dollar, which is fascinating. I've in our lifetimes I've never seen a country switch to the dollar. I've seen countries in Central America. I've been to El Salvador. They work off the dollar. But to switch seems interesting. And the first thing I think it would do is kind of stabilize the economy, right? People can actually afford to save their money. They don't have to worry about they're going to lose, 60% of their purchasing value when they get paid. That's interesting. But it also, and he's a big fiscal, like we're going to have a balanced budget. He's going to chop off everything necessary. But if he did switch to the dollar, it would kind of ensure fiscal restraint beyond his presidency. It would make this permanent. Because if Argentina switches to the dollar, they can't print money anymore.
Yeah, they have a limited supply of dollars they can actually spend.
I mean, like that would involve getting rid of the quote-unquote Federal Reserve, the central bank of Argentina. They would have no monetary controls at all.
Is this the dollar milkshake theory sort of like playing out right in front of us?
I think that's a cherry on top when you have some random, South American country just being like, yeah, we'll use a dollar. I don't know if it is. Like, it seems risky for them. Like, obviously, let's say the transition goes well. I was thinking about, how do they issue debt? Like, how, if they wanted to run a deficit, how would they do that? They would probably issue Argentinian bonds in dollars. And you could see a pro and con there, right? Like, oh, fuck, we have to pay back in dollars. We're not used to that. But also, it opens their bonds up to an international market.
Right, and they might have higher yields than, or they would certainly have higher yields than our market, and that might incentivize foreign investment.
Right, because like, why would you buy Argentina's debt? Like, there's this currency risk involved that makes you go, like, God, I just don't want to touch this thing. But they may be a higher risk country, but the international markets might be like, well, if it's in dollars, I'll buy your debt at a price. But it's no longer this like unavoidable or avoidable thing that you just really don't want to touch. So I don't know. It's an interesting play if he is able to pull that off. I don't think he has the parliament there to like make big changes, but maybe he's got enough juice to make it happen. I think it'd be fascinating to watch a country dollarize.
I mean, there's been countries that have dollarized before, though, right? It's not anything.
I've never seen one like
new.
live action on TikTok.
And what's the pro Bitcoin take is just that he's saying the same thing that Satoshi's saying, that like central.
He's a believer in sound money.
Yeah, like
generally speaking. Yeah, I've heard some of his speeches, and he's actually fairly intelligent. Like, he actually espouses some like pretty good economic principles when he's talking, like interspersed with like some of the craziness, which is like really interesting to hear. But he's talked in depth about like why it's like a freaking dumpster fire there, and like just coming from all these like sort of like kind of Milton Friedman-esque sort of economic theories. So it's cool to see. I'm kind of like more curious, like, I don't know, like, it seems like people like hate him, right? They like want him to fail. There's like this like entrenched sort of like institutional interest that like doesn't want him to succeed. Like, he's anti-establishment.
yes, that's the reason, right? It's just because he's weird.
And
It's not because he's weird. It's because he's not them.
It seems
Yeah,
like there's
right.
this same presumption or assumption that let's call it left or far left, that made of Trump, that they're making of him. They're like, he'll fall under his own weight. Like, he's going to make such bad decisions that the thing is going to collapse. And I mean, we'll see, but like, I think it's worth noting that, the left side of America made that same presumption that that Trump would fall under his own weight. And granted, he was a one-term president, so maybe he did, but
So far,
I feel like the Trump comparison's kind of lazy, though. I feel like people are like, oh, it's kind of a loud, brash guy saying crazy stuff, and he looks weird, so he's basically Trump. Like, Trump didn't have like a economic theory, he just like said things. Right? Milei seems like he's actually got like all of these kind of first economic principles that he's operating from, and has like a real intention behind like what he's doing. So I don't know if it's like if it's a super fair comparison.
Have you guys seen on Twitter some pictures in Argentina? I don't know, call it like 1970s ish. This was like a fairly wealthy country.
Yeah.
Like, and if you follow Peter Zion, who kind of looks at the geography, the demographics, can you produce your own food, and where are you situated in the world? He has like a list of criteria they use to kind of evaluate where your place is in geopolitics. And I think he would rate Argentina, outside of the political grift, pretty high in terms of
super
where are you
high.
on the globe, what kind of land you have, how are you able to defend your land. They should be like the breadbasket of the world, like to be able to produce and export an extreme amount of product, let alone food.
they had a massive advantage and they botched it.
Yeah, they botched
It's
it.
like a real testament to how much like government matters.
So would you call this guy Miele or whatever his name is? Would you call him a populist? Like, because I was always sort of like confused by what that term actually meant. He is like definitely anti-establishment, but like, is that what populist looks like? Because I tend to frame these things still within the realm of like the Ray Dalio book of like how the
man.
world order is changing.
I mean, this guy is like
Yeah.
fourth turning
Yeah,
written all over him.
When I saw that was the first thing that came to mind when I saw him. I'm like, oh, this is fourth turning shit right here.
He's
This
literally
is-
saying, let's get rid of all the institutions.
yeah, just like okay,
Burn them to the ground.
yeah,
Yeah, it's super interesting. It's like we've talked about the fourth turning a lot on this show because it's like an interesting mental model to kind of think about what's happening in the world at like a very high level. And you know, we've just sort of begun, right? Like we've got years to go on this like last particular
I think we're kind of in
cycle.
the middle of it. I wouldn't say that we just begun.
I think we've just begun. I think maybe we're like 5 years into it.
I think it's probably a 20-year period or ish, and we're kind of we're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think we've got at least like a decade ahead
A
of us.
decade
At
or
least.
15 years ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like interesting. And yeah, you just see parallels to this everywhere. Like everybody's like really squaring off in their camps, and then there's just like kind of two, you know, widening vision, like the gap between these visions of the world and how we should like rebuild society is like getting wider and wider and wider, and like you see it everywhere. You know, you see it in like, you know, Israel Palestine. There's like a huge like divide there. You see it with Milei and this like sort of like populist, like just like kind of anarcho-capitalism versus like Peronism, you know, which is like, you know, basically the legacy of Evita Peron and everything, which is very much kind of in line with, you know, what people would call like the, you know, Democratic Party of the United States, just more kind of big government, social justice type thing. It's interesting to see that these battles are happening in other countries as well, like often to a much more intense degree than they are here.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how he can actually push some of these reforms in. And if he does, what are the results, right? Like,
Yeah,
we
and
live in
will-
California,
And
which
will
is...
that have like a domino effect elsewhere where it says like, see, this can work? Like, is that a thing? Like,
Yeah, he's probably looking at Bukele and Bolsonaro and being like, yeah, same. We're going to do the same thing, but I'm going to be a little even more aggressive. And I'm interested to see how it plays out and what the average Argentinian thinks of like reshuffling the board.
It's going to be like really interesting to see what the Biden administration does with him, because he's basically like throwing a lifeline to America, being like, help me. I'm into the dollar. I'm into like what we would, you know, call like the, you know, the free market side of America, all of this stuff. I kind of feel like they're just going to like leave him out swimming in
I
the
hope
ocean
not.
by himself, because like it's sad, but I think him succeeding is like a threat to
Right, it's too-
their
it's too
ideology. It's like,
anti-establishment.
yeah, it's anti-establishment. It's anti like big government intervention. The idea that, you know, people are like these autonomous individuals and like they're self-sovereign and we don't need all of this like help and all of this bureaucracy. It's very like, it's viewed, you know, as Trumpian, even though I don't know if it should be, but that's kind of the and it's just like everything in the world is viewed for like
So
through
you-
like is this Trump like lens first?
You're thinking like he's going to come like, US, I want to integrate with you. I want to use the dollar. Like, tell me what I need to do in order to play. But he's so associated with Trumpism that they're just going to push him to the side.
Yeah, and like you can see it in the way like he's getting coverage in the media. Like what's the name of the guy in Brazil who there was the kind of right guy, right? And
Bolsonaro or?
then the guy who just won, who's on the left,
Oh.
right? Didn't Brazil used to have like a right wing guy, and he lost the election, and they got like a left wing guy in there now?
Let's see.
Can you look that up, Jamie?
Lula.
He's the new guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's more of like a left guy, right? And Bolsonaro is more of like, right?
Yeah.
Like you saw that there's like a very different coverage of like Bolsonaro versus Lula versus like if you look at the headlines for him, it's like all this like glowing thing, and then like if you look at Milei and like the New York Times and whatnot, it's all just like far right Trump guy. It's all just like, you know, the big scary. It's the stuff that, like Tim Urban talks about in his book, where you just change the adjectives around and you just make it scary.
okay, so that's like kind of forward looking. Can we use anything that like that is observable today as like a proxy? Like you mentioned Nayib Bukele in El Salvador. Like, do you have any idea of how he's resonating with those people right now? Because like he kind of like took those first steps.
Well, he won, right?
He
but,
won,
But
yeah.
there's going to be a group that is going to be protesting. I mean, I think there's going to be quite a large
I
group.
mean, do they have like a re-election coming up at some point?
Oh, you're talking about Bukele? Sorry.
Yeah, Bukele.
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
Right.
is
And
he-
like how is he being received based on his sort of like
yeah, I don't
dramatic
know like his
proposals?
popularity within
Yeah,
El
I don't know.
Salvador.
Either. I find it very difficult personally to like actually assess what's going on in the world because like we're getting propagandized like so hard.
Yeah, you
like,
gotta be
when
careful, like-
when I consume information on anything, whether it be like Israel, whether it be like Ukraine, Russia, whether it be like El Salvador or Argentina, like that information is being fed through this like crazy filter, and like I don't have enough like kind of first like information to be able to sift through some of the stuff, and I feel like I don't trust what I'm reading a lot.
I think you can find different think tanks, like CSIS is one, and just like research their bias ahead of time before you read the reports because they have really in-depth information, data about what's really going on instead of like a 6-minute snippet. And if you do want to read, for 20, 30 minutes, you can get a deep dive. But you're right. I mean, even those think tanks have funders who have a bias.
I mean,
that you
El
still have to be aware
Salvador
of.
is particularly bad because it's all filtered to us through like crypto Twitter, i.e. Bitcoin Twitter, and Bitcoin is like very pro.
But that's not the biggest thing Bukele did. I mean, Bukele said law and order, and he started rounding up.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But like even like he's throwing all these gang members in jail and everything, right? But it comes through a filter to me through the Bitcoiners, and it's just like, oh, this is all amazing. Look at all the amazing stuff. I don't see any.
Well,
and I'm
Bukele's
sure
down
there's-
big on his Bitcoin purchases.
What's his average
Is he
price?
still down?
He's got to be way down.
He's probably about even now, I would guess.
He was buying the dip
Sailor's
all the way
up?
down
Jesus.
in 2021.
And Sailor's up.
I mean, it was interesting that that Milei did not say, I want Bitcoin to be legal tender. He's just saying we're going to dollarize. And I'm also interested when he does face protests. This is a guy who doesn't believe in institutions, authoritarian regimes. But when he does have protesters in the streets, is he going to instruct his troops to quell down now that he's in the position of power? Will he see that these tools are available and
Yeah.
I do want to
Shut
have
this
my
up.
mission
Yeah.
executed, so I might have to just do this to shut it down. And will he adopt some authoritarian tendencies as someone in office? Because everyone thinks I'll be true to my message when I'm in office, but I think this will be an interesting test to see what happens to a human being who's kind of opposite that when it comes in place.
Yeah.
Um,
Easy to talk a big game when and be principled when they're not put to the test.
right. So we'll see. We'll see.
It's interesting. I've been seeing that a lot with Israel Palestine because I've been following like Ben Shapiro a lot because he's been kind of leading the charge of the pro-Israel thing, and it's been interesting because he seems to be wavering on his principles a little bit. I'm seeing you can't some anti-free speech stuff, and it's it's very easy to have all these principles until it really hits home for you, and then suddenly you're like, well, no, well this is just bad because XYZ. Well, you can't say that because those people are those are evil people, and you can't so
Yeah.
these lines get blurred very quickly, and it's it's hard to stay principled.
Can we mention the Ben Shapiro Thomas Sowell interview? Because it's a momentous occasion when Thomas Sowell goes on a podcast that more than just 10,000 people watch. It was only a 20-minute interview.
Yeah, it's a 20-minute phone interview.
It was pretty crappy.
Yeah.
I think what we want is
Does a
Thomas Sowell to go on
disservice
a
to Big
3-hour
Thomas.
Joe Rogan, a 6-hour Joe Rogan interview.
Chair's open right here. Thomas,
Yeah.
Tommy boy.
It is. But hopefully that's just the start of him getting some podcast fame. Maybe he notices book sales go up. He's like, maybe I should do these podcast things.
But isn't he 90?
He's he's
He's
old.
94.
He's sharp as fuck though.
Yeah, but he's not going to be doing more.
Now we need him to do more.
Yeah.
Our
I can't
generation
believe he came
depends
out
on
with
it.
another book. He just came out with a book. He just writes books. The guy puts out a book every 6 months. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, guys got to pay bills.
Man, what a dude.
Let's see.
What do you got on your
Well,
notebook there?
we're getting close to wrap up time, but should we talk about this Decel versus Excel thing
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
we wrap up?
Yeah, we
do
should.
that. Let's
So
do
We
that.
should.
okay, so let's just cover. Everyone is pretty aware of like open AI, soap opera drama. We've come full circle. Sam's back in open AI. Whatever. I don't think we're that interested in talking about the
The what happened.
gossip.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we're all familiar with that. But I think we've become very aware that there are people who believe we should not accelerate technology as fast as possible for the benefit of humankind. They think it's scary to accelerate technology at the fastest pace possible. I think we've all kind of like maybe at some point showed some hesitancy toward like accelerating AI, that we've voiced concerns or scenarios where it could become bad for humanity and net negative for humanity. But I think we've been mostly excited about what it can do and say like, let's still pursue this. So I don't know. I think it's interesting to talk about. I don't think I've ever met a person like let's call him a Decel person.
Just sounds like incel.
It does kind of sound like incel, but a
What's the other
Decel
one?
person in real
Excel?
life who's like I've met in person, have a good
You don't want
conversation
to be
with
a
them.
decel. Like you just hear that word and you know it's not going to be great.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, is it with merit? I mean, you're interested in like, has this ever happened in history before?
Yeah, well, I think the question to ask is like, has there ever been a technology that people like desperately wanted to slow down, and in retrospect they were like correct about slowing it down?
Yeah. And I can play sort of devil's advocate on this one.
wanna play?
I think.
Decel character for a bit.
Yeah, because I'm like
Decel Eric.
I'm actually fully on board with like AI proliferation. I'm rooting for it, but like I do see the use of like this decel voice, and for me, I think like the proxy that I would like use is like horizontal drilling, fracking. You know, like
Okay.
like we have this incentive to be like energy independent, and we've like discovered all these fossil fuels in the shale fields that you can't access just by drilling straight down. So we discovered this like horizontal drilling, and then you kind of like explode it, and then you can access these fossil fuels. And there are ramifications with that, right? And we've seen that some of this stuff, when you're drilling, it gets into the water table, and it can contaminate, different places. There are many examples of where this has gone wrong. And I think that decel voice is useful because you probably want to design some thoughtful regulation around that. You know, like even if you want to still let it go and thrive, because, you know, like being energy independent is really fucking awesome for many reasons, but like you want to do it in a safe way. And like having that voice makes a lot of sense. Even if it's not like you don't want to decelerate, you just want to have that voice exist.
Yeah, because it's from when you described that, what I heard was that you want their voice, but you actually don't want them to win.
No, I think you want the new tech to win, but you want the new tech to win in a safe way. So like what we found with fracking is that like, you know, if companies can cut corners, they will for profitability. That's what companies exist for, is for profit. So like they're not going to like make these wells very safe and, you know, like secure with like cement casings around each one, and like how you contain these contaminants. Like I used to study fracking just like for investment cases, and like I know that like 99% of what's injected into the ground is water and sand. The 1% is probably toxic,
Right.
but you got to like fucking control that, you know?
But do you like the decel voice as like a market constraint? Not necessarily like a regulatory constraint. That
No,
voice is there to call out the company that makes the mistakes, so
yes.
that then they are forced
It's
to
a market
correct.
constraint that drives the regulatory constraint. And the regulatory constraint, I think, is like it's based off of the market constraint.
I feel like once we get into the realm of creating like government bureaucracies for this stuff, it just always goes off the rails.
But if
This is like a Thomas Sowell principle, right? It's like one of his kind of Thomas Sowellisms, and you know, in short, the idea is that like when you create government bureaucracies to kind of regulate or do something for a particular, like to solve a problem, right? You're basically like guaranteeing that the problem won't get solved because you've created this like institution that behaves like a life form that wants to survive, and the way it survives is by like not really solving the problem. Like the bureaucracies want to grow like any other organism. They want more money. They want more funding. They want
I
to hire more
agree.
people.
You're right
And
about
it's
that.
a trap.
I agree with you. But you're right about that. But it has to be some sort of like ebb and flow, right? Like a pendulum or something where like, because pure capitalism or like pure democracies also fail if left unfettered. So it has to be some sort of balance in between. And obviously you don't want these bureaucracies growing unfettered either.
Yeah, but I think there's like some nuance. Like I think it's very interesting to talk about regulation on like localized levels. Say you're talking about regulating what a company can dump into like a local stream, right? That's very different than trying to regulate global climate policy. Like on the one hand, you have this bubble
It's localized.
that's localized and you can sort of govern the bubble. On the other hand, you have just a completely ungovernable situation where the game theory just plays out that like whoever defects just gets to, and like AI is the same thing, right? You can't put it in a bubble. You can't localize it, and anything that you do to constrict yourself here, somebody else can kind of jump in and pick up the baton and run with it. And it's kind of a difficult problem.
Your
in that
point's well
sense.
taken. Like, I think I could poke a little hole in it, but I think your point's well taken because, like, ultimately you'd want to have federal regulation on these little localities of the stream dumping, right? You'd want to have like a U.S.
Of
policy.
the negative outcome,
Yeah.
not the process.
Yeah,
I'm
but,
actually not sure. Actually, like this is like I think an interesting question. Like, do you want these broad federal agencies for a lot of things, or would we be better served with having most of this stuff localized? I think it's actually like a very interesting question, and that's not just like the EPA, but that's like, you know, even going down to like the Department of Education and there's all sorts of stuff where it seems like it would be better suited to have it like sort of decentralized and localized and at a level where people are like kind of more accountable to what they do and like people are more in touch with what's going on.
And that's another sort of branch off of it. But I took your main point as like AI is not localized. It's like this global thing that where you can't even like put federal regulation around it because it's a global thing.
It's one of the most like ungovernable things we've ever created.
Totally.
I
Well,
think.
especially we have actual open source AI tools, and this little episode over the weekend is probably going to give more steam behind those open source tools for sure.
It's beyond even just like the open source of the code at this point. Like we're talking like we're in an age where like all of the infrastructure itself is going to become decentralized, or some of it already is. Like we have some amount of decentralized storage now, and like these things are going to become more and more and more prolific as time goes on. It's going to be like very difficult to put any of this stuff back in the box like once it's out. And it probably already is.
Like the anti-nuclear movement or like anti-nuclear proliferation at all with this, because it seems like it has similar.
It's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, so anti-nuclear proliferation now is good, and we know it's good because, well, we had a problem. Like, it seems like that movement existed before any nuclear bombs went off, but it really picked up steam when there was a negative outcome. Let's call it Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Can you? It sounds like you guys know more about this than I do. Like, I understand what the agenda was for anti-nuclear proliferation, but can you tell me a little bit about the outcomes that we've actually achieved with this? Because I can't tell if it's just like in name only, like a yay,
well,
we did it, or
it helps that this technology. There's only a handful of countries have been able to actually produce. So you could probably count them on your hands that have the nuclear capabilities. So
it's like
that's one thing where this
of them or
doesn't
something.
match apples to apples, right? Because every country can play an AI, but maybe only 9 or 10 have been able to play in the nuclear game. And so when it comes to these treaties of anti-proliferation, hey, we already have like 1,000 nukes. We can fire them from the plane, from the submarine, from land. I think we're covered for mutual destruction. So let's like over time decrease the amount. We've gone in and out of anti-nuclear proliferation treaties with Russia, which is kind of the main person on the other side. But in general, I think we've been able to like establish some norms and values around it. But there's only again been like a handful of players. I don't know if this applies to AI at all.
Okay, I was thinking about nuclear power.
Okay.
I think nuclear proliferation and so far as it like refers to bombs and such is a totally different animal. And it kind of makes sense, right? Like the purpose of a nuclear bomb is to just blow things up and kill people. Like there's no no other
upside.
purpose.
Yeah.
And then when it goes off, the world literally ends. Versus like AI has like an infinite number of like
No, but nuclear energy. I mean, the technology.
right, but nuclear energy is different, right? Like there's like we made a huge mistake, I think, but we didn't kind of shut down nuclear energy because of the bombs. We shut them down because of like Chernobyl and like these environmental concerns, right?
So it was like a calculus between the upside and the potential downside.
Yeah, and it seems like whenever we do this calculus, we totally fuck it up. Like we are so bad at thinking about all of the future value that will be destroyed, all the future lives that will be lost. We just think about what happened to like 10 or 100 people or whatever just happened in the present, and it's like such a short-sighted.
I like this. This goes into like just human psychology, where we feel loss 10 times more than we feel the
a
benefit
little
of
NIMBYism,
gain.
right? Like, yeah, I don't mind if we use nuclear power. Just don't put it in my backyard.
So there's the NIMBYism for sure, but I also feel like there's this thing in humans where it's like any negative thing has like a way more profound impact than the positive thing.
loss aversion.
Yeah,
A
it's like
better
total
example
loss
where there's
aversion.
no NIMBYism is in like drug research, like anything. Like we are so concerned with like of like preventing like 40 people from dying in like a trial or release of something that goes wrong, that like I think like somebody who's like well versed in the space could probably point to like so many things that we've kind of nuked into the ground that could have saved like millions of lives. Like to this point, like have probably caused millions of people to die because we have all of this. We have this like regulatory apparatus that like makes it cost like decades and just incredible sums of money to bring this technology to the market. And like we have this mentality as humans who we're just like, no, we can't let these 10 people die, even though because we see these 10 people right now in front of us. We don't care about like the million people in the future who we can't like kind of put a face and name to.
I was thinking about this actually, just with like the nuclear energy component. I was thinking about, this like fracking example that I had in my mind, and I was thinking about, well, what are the benefits of fracking? I think the same benefit as nuclear energy, where you can get energy independent, and we've like fought wars over fossil fuels and energy in the past. There's nothing more destructive than war,
Right.
probably.
I mean, to your point, Stephen, like I think the game theory of AI just doesn't make it controllable. Because let's say you are a smaller country, you're less developed than the major players, like, but you have some skill, you have capital, you have human capital. Like, what better way to accelerate your country's economic power and lift up your people than say, hey, we're going to make a stamp in this area where you get incredible leverage. We talk about productivity on the receiving end for AI, but if your country is producing it, exporting it outwards, like you can do a lot with a very small group of talented people. So I think like the game theory says that you could decel it for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, maybe, but you're not going to do it completely.
It seems like the best play is to just go as quickly as possible so that you can somehow harness AI to check AI in a particular way. Like it's best to just make sure you have like the biggest gun, I guess, so that at least you're in possession of that and you're like a good person, quote unquote, as everybody thinks they are. And that like the bad people, don't get that gun.
So actually, like I've asked this off air in our little conversations over and over again. Like I've never really understood like the Eliezer thesis, where it's like AI is going to kill us all. Like it's over, right? And I've asked sort of just everybody I could find, like, give me an example of how that works, right? Because and what I'm saying that to allude to maybe this like counterpoint to what we've been saying, that like AI is not containable. Like maybe we're being a little short-sighted, that the downsides of AI can be contained. Like if you can insulate your populace from the downside of AI. maybe that is worthwhile. And like, I don't know the specific examples of what the downsides of AI are. And that's, my first question. Second one is, if you can give me specific examples, well, maybe having some Decel type
I don't know if it's
mentality
in like
helps.
specific examples. I think it's in the human's inability to understand how fast the technology could compound to be something so much smarter and more capable than we think. And then it's like, well, then the scenarios like open up from there.
Like that ambiguity is the part that I've always sort of like had a problem with, because we've been saying the same thing with like the Y2K. Remember when Y2K was fucking around? We thought like, oh my God,
a lot of people made a lot
world's
of money off Y2K.
World's gonna die. Y2K, computers are gonna shut off. It's like this ambiguous, amorphous sphere that like.
I mean, I'm with you. I want to see something bad happen, not because
tell me what we can prevent, and we can prevent it.
Well, I just want to wait until something bad happens, not because I want people to get hurt or die or anything like that. But I just want to know. Okay,
even
this
give
is an example.
Give
of what
me
we
an
need to regulate.
example of a future fear.
I mean, I could give you like a billion examples, right?
Okay, AI shoots the fucking nukes up. Like, is that one? Like,
No, you're taking it too far. Like you're going all the way to the end where like AI becomes sentient and decides it wants to eliminate humans.
I feel like this should be its own pod. Like, how does AI kill us? It's its own pod.
AI doesn't have to kill us. Humans using AI kill us.
Misinformation is the easiest one.
Yeah, like imagine like everybody just has access to like super intelligent AGI, right? And it can create anything. And like imagine it knows how to like synthesize pathogens and stuff like that, and then you just get it in the hands of like a terrorist who just wants to like kill everybody in America, and he uses AGI to synthesize like a virus.
Like, oh, they gave me something I can buy at Home Depot.
Like
Wait,
that's like the scary thing, and that's going to happen way before AI becomes like sentient and like escapes and like on its own kind of.
You're just saying that with more knowledge, humans are so much more dangerous, but like you still have to like manufacture the pathogens. Like that's
yeah,
not
but there's
like that easy.
people with malintent on this earth. I mean, you can agree with that argument.
And that they don't know how to fucking combine two chemicals.
Well, maybe you find it easier, cheaper, easier to transport,
like
easier to spread.
What we found with like ChatGPT is like all it does is like make Googling easier.
Well, we're
It's
obviously not
that
talking
fucking-
about it now. We're talking about it times 10,000.
Okay, I'm trying to hone in because I like where this is going.
Or what if an agent can spin up 10,000 Twitter accounts and also knows how to get a following and build up credibility over time, and then those 10,000 Twitter accounts are in the hands of like
how do we hire this guy?
It's kind of like just giving everybody like it would be a bad world, right? If everybody just had like their own nuke,
Yeah.
right? Their own suitcase nuke. But this is like what we could get to, like where everybody's just basically wielding their own sort of like digital nuke in a way. Like if you had intelligence that was like that powerful, that it didn't have like proper checks and it could be used in particular ways, you can kind of see how that it only takes one, right? It only takes 1 in a billion people.
I don't know. My thought there goes to like startups, which you guys are very familiar with. It's like the idea alone is so worthless. It's about the execution. Like just having more information doesn't make you strong. It's like you got to execute. You got to like do it, and that's hard.
Yeah, but I think you're just like underestimating what AGI could be.
Oh,
right?
totally.
You know?
I don't even comprehend what it could be.
Like none of us
don't
comprehend
worry
what
about
it
getting there.
would
Just
be.
realize that you have the behavioral human bias of not being able to get there.
I don't think that the knowledge is like the bridge we can't cross today. Like you can Google anything.
You're still talking about
No, you
Googling.
can't for example, like there are all these like very complicated like protein folding questions like that, like the likes of Google like puts like insane amount of compute power to solve, right? There's plenty of like very difficult questions you can't solve by Googling. There's stuff that's like currently unknowable by humanity that will probably become knowable in the future when we have this sort of tech. And you have to also understand that these breakthroughs they'll make other breakthroughs and breakthroughs and breakthroughs and breakthroughs on top of breakthroughs, and you might not be able to conceive of like how easy it could be to do things in the future because of all the breakthroughs that are sort of stacked upon that.
I'm still mostly optimistic. Like I'm excited for it in longevity, and if we could stay alive for an extra year longer, you get probably another 6 months for free because technology studies molecules will be developed. So
yeah. Every day that you're alive is like an extra 6 days.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting, or drug discovery, or there's so many different ways. So
I would like to continue this conversation in the Discord with people because like even everything that we just said is still so esoteric in my mind that I can't make this tangible for me to understand what the risk is. It's like, oh, well, you don't even understand the connections we can make.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't understand.
I want Armand in this conversation next
Yeah.
too, because he's obviously building with it. I believe he's an OpenAI developer,
He's gonna kill the world.
but I think he would understand the power of it more than us. Maybe we'll find AI that can kick off a podcast without a hitch. Maybe.
We should try that actually.
Jordan
we should
GPT.
definitely try that.
maybe.
Ugh.
It ain't
All right,
easy
Jordan.
out here.
Yeah,
folks.
you're out. We're doing pod producer GPTs and
Jordan,
He's like,
please
fuck
do
you
not
guys.
leave.
Good luck
Jordan,
next week. Yeah.
don't you dare not show up. Because whatever these guys say, we need you.
All right, guys. Well, heartfelt happy Thanksgiving from the Alfalfa crew here to your home, your friends, your family. Even if you're international, you don't celebrate. Either way, we're grateful for you. We're gracious that you spend your time and your week with us. And we could talk all night, but you can't listen all night. So I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I want to see photos of your spreads. Give me some photos. And
yeah, I want to see all that food porn.
yeah,
Turkey
Yeah, hop
porn.
in the Discord, have some fun with
Any
us.
turduckens?
Collect the episode collectibles to get entered into the Zbiotics giveaway, and we'll announce the winner next week. All right, guys.
All right, sounds good.